10 years ago, on the 24th of July 2012, I bought my first ever boat and moved on board.
Well then folks, it's nearly 8 o'clock. What an incredible day it has been.
Footage from this time shows a version of myself that was 25 years old, utterly clueless and directionless in life. Somebody who knew nothing about boats and was generally fearful of doing the wrong thing, maybe even just being seen to do the wrong thing. But mingled in with the nervousness and the shyness, there was an absolute abundance of excitement at this strange new lifestyle and adventure I had stumbled upon, and setting out on a tiny little boat to make my own narrowboat life story was truly one of the freest moments and most wonderful experiences I could have ever asked to have in my mid-20s as I headed into real life in the real world. But then something strange happened, and I didn't join the real world in any way that I'd imagined. Some people would argue that my rural outdoors lifestyle was more in the real world than maybe others, but it didn't necessarily feel like that at the time. And my life actually during this period became almost unrecognisable compared to my peers. I was supporting myself with a part-time job in a supermarket at this point. In hindsight, one of the most remarkable things to me is that I couldn't drive at this point, and so I would cycle everywhere. And when I looked out of the windows some mornings and saw weather like this, knowing that I had a 15-mile commute to get to work, it didn't fill me with joy, but there was also, I suppose, a level of stubborn pride that was like, no, this is my lifestyle and I'm a hardy, outdoorsy character. And I suppose that helped power me through some of the less perfect times. And then we cut to a clip like this, where you can see me at my absolute happiest in my rapidly waning 20s. What an absolutely beautiful time that was. As much as I may look back on this period of my life with tearful nostalgia, I also knew at the time, as the years were passing, that maybe living on a boat with only 15 foot of indoor space wasn't a particularly long-term prospect. And so I had itchy feet, and I started looking at bigger boats and what I could potentially do to narrowboat Tilly. And then a decision was made that as more time passes and I think about it more often, I feel it makes even less sense in the context of the time, because I left the canals for what would turn out to be less than 2 years and went to live in a flat in the middle of my hometown Oswestry. Now, some people get the wrong idea when I say that and envision that I was living in some sort of dark, dirty hovel, whereas this was a truly beautiful Victorian converted building, and I was lucky enough to be on the top floor with a balcony that overlooked the rooftops of Oswestry and the surrounding countryside, and it was a truly wonderful place to live. But part of the reason that it makes so little sense in the context of the time is that not only was I leaving the lifestyle I loved to be in a fixed place and with a lot more costs, but even once I was back on dry land, I was still out cycling and walking on the canals all the time. In fact, all the footage you're seeing on the screen at the moment is from that period that I lived on dry land. I was still going out early in the morning to see the sunrise on the misty, foggy fields. I was cycling out in the small hours of the night. I was going and wandering up mountains with my friends. I was doing all of the things that I'd always loved to do as part of my active lifestyle, just from a fixed place with an awful lot more costs attached to it. What I'm about to say may well make you groan, my dear viewer. However, it's an important part of my general life and my experience on my second boat. This period of my life did give me this one gift as an enduring legacy, and that is a love of building model railways. Now, they may sometimes be incredibly frustrating, fiddly and infuriating, but believe me, on those long, cold, dark winter's nights, huddled up on the boat, hunched over the table, working on scenery or buildings for the layout, with the roaring fire and an audiobook in the background, there's very few things as relaxing and meditative an experience as that. Anyway, back to the story. No more train talk. April the 20th, 2018. I stand in the sun, posing in front of my new boat, Abel's Ark. Having previously only experienced boat life on a tiny 30-foot boat, I don't imagine when I buy the Ark that at 45 foot she's going to be too much of a different experience. Yet that extra 15 foot of indoor space absolutely changed the way I think of how comfortable boat life can be. And as I walk through here and those early days of buying and setting up and moving on board the Ark, it's truly remarkable to think how many fantastic memories I've already made on this boat in such a seemingly short amount of time, given that this period of boat life has been interrupted by what, for YouTube's sake, I can only really refer to as the 2020 incident. Even though recent times of boat life have been a little unsettled and disrupted by world events and by my own doubts about what's best to do for the future, I've got to say that I've had some of my favourite boat life experiences during these recent times. Some of the most incredible scenery in the snow of 2021, some truly remarkable scenes in some of the recent absolutely sweltering, dazzling summer times. But there's also a particular reason that it's been maybe a more chaotic and unsettled time of my life in recent years. I think the next clip may help to explain that. The first night on board. Or was it, as no sooner had we gone to bed than Charlie the dog started doing this. Yes, as unlikely as it may seem, my dear viewers, I have indeed actually got a long-term girlfriend, Samantha, and of course lovely little Charlie the dog. As me and Sam's relationship has developed over the last few years, it obviously has a slight sticking point and variation where I live on a boat and she very much does not live on a boat. So we are currently still weighing up a lot of options, and one of the ideas we've been leaning towards and favouring, and I think had the price of boats not been so inflated in the last couple of years since the global incident, we probably already would have gone down this path where we had two boats, one of which being a smaller boat that was basically just my little bedroom, office, and I suppose more than anything really, a bedroom because I'm so terrible at sleeping and staying asleep at night with the slightest noise waking me up, but also a recording studio for these videos and whatever else happens to come along in the future. Either way, my friends, I cannot possibly thank the millions of people that have tuned into these videos over the years enough for the support and just for the time spent giving me the briefest look. And I certainly can't possibly be grateful enough for the decade of experiences that I've just had, and the fact that I've been able to do it at what I hope will be the front end of my life